Guten Morgen und willkommen to the week beginning the 18th of May. Beginners, this is part 1 for your work for this week, and there's also a video to go with part 2 which will go along with the non-beginners work. This week we're going to be looking at talking about who's in our family and also describing their character. I also want to draw your attention to the PowerPoint that I put up last week with the virtual classroom that looks a little bit like this, just to remind you that if you have a little explore and click on the different objects, you will find lots of tools and short videos and online activities which will help with your learning for this topic. So first up, we're going to review the verb haben, to have, which you saw last week briefly. All verbs in German end in en in their infinitive, and you remove that to add on endings. Now this is an irregular verb, so it doesn't exactly follow the pattern that a regular verb would, so you do have to take time to learn it separately. It goes, ich habe, du hast, sie, es hat, wir haben, ihr habt, sie haben, sie haben. Take time to understand what all the different parts mean, and also to look at all the different varieties of words they have for you, okay? This activity is meant to test your understanding of the subject pronouns, that is all the little words for I, you, he, she, it, and so on, okay? One thing to note is that you will notice in number 5 you have the Sie with a capital S. That is always the word for you, which is polite. So when you speak to somebody you don't know, and it can be singular or plural. The rest you should know from the work we did last week. Okay, to talk about the brothers and sisters that we have, the question that you would be asked is, Hast du Geschwister? Do you have any brothers or sisters? Do you have any siblings? Okay, you would start with the words ich habe, meaning I have. If it's somebody masculine, you would say einen. So ich habe einen Bruder. And then when it becomes plural, you'll note that there's a change in the spelling of Bruder to Brüder. It takes an umlaut on the U and you pronounce it slightly differently. Okay, ich habe einen Bruder, ich habe zwei Brüder. Then ich habe eine Schwester, so note the different word for a when it's somebody feminine, and then zwei Schwestern. Okay, zwei is the word for two, and then the word Schwester is taken in the N when it becomes plural on the end. Or if you're an only child, you could say ich habe keine Geschwister. It's also possible to say here ich bin ein Einzelkind. For this activity, I want you to use the knowledge from the previous slide to make sentences to describe what you can see in the pictures. So for example, in the first one, you're imagining that these are all pictures of your siblings. So you would say, I have a brother, or ich habe einen Bruder. Then you want to go through and look what you would do for the different scenarios there. So now that you can tell me who you have in your family, you might also want to go on and give me a bit more detail, tell me their name and something about what they either look like or what they're like as a person. So we need to know the words for my and your so that you can do this and answer questions. Okay, as you've been used to in French and Spanish, there are different words for my and your depending on the gender of who you're talking about. So for masculine, you've got mein. So for example, mein Bruder, my brother. And for feminine, it changes to meine, e on the end, meine Schwester. Dein Bruder and deine Schwester for your. Okay, also want to draw your attention to the fact that the words for Bruder and Schwester have capital letters. All nouns in German have capital letters. So that's something that's quite difficult for us to get used to at first, but you need to remember to put that in. Okay, and if we wanted to talk about parents or grandparents, for example, we would need to know the plural, which so happens to be the same as the feminine. So meine Eltern, my parents, or your parents, deine Eltern. Alright, so a little challenge to finish off this section of the lesson. It's a little dialogue asking and answering some questions about your family members. You've got 3 questions. Wie heißt deinen Bruder? Wie heißt deine Schwester? Und wie heißen deine Geschwister? So slightly different format for the question in the last one because it's a plural. Also, you may notice it says deinen and not dein. This is because here the accusative case is being used, and I'll tell you more about that later. Mein Bruder heißt Roberto. Meine Schwester heißt Laura. Und meine Geschwister heißen Roberto und Laura. So I want you to practice this conversation through and then see if you can make up your own one about your own family. It would be great if you could send me a little audio clip of you doing that so I can see how your pronunciation is coming along. Okay, so this is the end of part 1. You can pause and then go on and have a look at the exercises for part 2 in the second video. Okay, hope this has been helpful. Auf Wiedersehen. Tschüss.